Live in Western Oregon, this is NBC 16 News at 5:30.
In the middle of this global pandemic, we are working diligently to prioritize public health and safety for our communities.
Oregon lawmakers hope to solve a $1 billion budget shortfall. Lawmakers are tackling state spending, but police reform is also on the table. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Jacqueline Mazer. Oregon lawmakers returned to the state capitol Monday for the second special session of the year. In the first special session, lawmakers addressed the COVID-19 health crisis and calls for police accountability. This special session is focused on several bills addressing cuts, but lawmakers are considering a bill that clarifies the use of chokeholds. Both Democrats and Republican lawmakers say they support the measure.
With bipartisan support from both sides, both the House and the Senate, I think they've been well considered. There was a lot of public testimony that went into passing those bills, and I think we'll be as quick as we can, as responsibly as we can, and move those bills through.
If they're ready to go, and I believe they are, we would be remiss to put them off.
Lawmakers must also address funding for schools and unemployment benefits. Lawmakers say they will have to make some difficult cuts. Meanwhile, Oregon lawmakers are busy trying to balance the budget, and transportation managers have their own set of money headaches, not only for this year, but for the next 4 years. NBC 16's Tom Adams says it means a confusing future for how big construction projects may be funded. Tom.
You know, Jacqueline, the Department of Transportation depends on state and federal money to get everything paid for. So it's like two pots of money. Thanks to COVID-19 and the effects on the economy, that state side of the equation is going to get a little bit tight for ODOT. The latest state revenue forecast did no favors for the Oregon Department of Transportation. Between the effects of the pandemic and the hammer to the economy, ODOT is now faced with a $170 million revenue shortfall in 2020 and 21, and that's just the start.
We're predicting that over the course of the next several years, we'll be down about $250 million. So that's a pretty substantial amount of money.
Brower explains COVID-19 travel restrictions emptied Oregon highways in the springtime, and it's only partially recovered. That affects gas tax revenue. Plus, spring office closures at the Department of Motor Vehicles put a big hit on driver's license and motor vehicle fees.
When people choose to not buy another vehicle because they don't have a job or maybe they're not driving as much, then that's less revenue coming into the State Highway Fund.
Understand that basic ODOT services are all paid out of the general fund, and the list is substantial.
Patching potholes, fixing guardrails out there during the winter, plowing snow. So we're going to have less money for things like that.
One positive point to take from the current budget dilemma is current construction projects. Angela Beer-Seidel tells me that projects like the Beltline North Delta interchange right here, those are safe. But here's the rub. Future construction has a much cloudier future, made worse by the revenue losses now for ODOT. Projects like Beltline and River Road.
But that's one of the areas that when we're looking long term, we need to get funds to be able to do that.
Beer-Seidel says motorists just need to be prepared for a lower level of service, at least for the short term. Brower told me today the best thing the state lawmakers can do is to make sure the Oregon DMV has enough money to effectively do its job. That's because DMV is dealing with a backlog of 200,000 appointments of people requesting services. DMV revenue actually makes up 1/3 of the state highway fund. Jacqueline?
All right, interesting report there, Tom. Thank you. Well, now on to a look at COVID-19 cases in Oregon. Today, the Oregon Health Authority reports 227 new cases and 1 new death, an 88-year-old man from Multnomah County. Statewide, 357 people died and more than 21,000 people tested positive since the pandemic began. Today, Multnomah County reported the most new cases with 45. Nearly 2,000 people are currently hospitalized in the state. Now, millions of Americans who've lost their jobs during the pandemic are living with uncertainty. As business experts warn, the recovery depends on how long COVID lasts. Some businesses in Eugene are already wondering what the economic forecast will be like once COVID-19 is finally over. NBC 16's Angelina Dixon reports.
Here in downtown Eugene, some businesses are open and some remained closed, but altogether, businesses wonder what the financial forecast holds after COVID-19.
Our brands scream nostalgia, they scream iconic Americana.
This business owner is not letting the COVID-19 financial impact stop him from opening his business in downtown Eugene. While uncertainty remains for many, Hakan Hakimoglu stays optimistic at Electric Avenue Sports. Business is so far so good, he says.
We opened last Saturday. We've been open for about a week and a day. And this store has been a dream for us to open. And we wanted to open pre-COVID, obviously. But as it is, we saw the need for people to enjoy their self-isolation and their social distancing with a certain amount of recreation involved.
Meanwhile, we talked with CEO of the Eugene Chamber of Commerce, Brittany Quickwarner, who says other business owners have not been that lucky.
Right now, a lot of businesses, I think, are, they're fearful of the unknowns of this fall. We have a lot of employers who are really struggling to figure out how to best support their employees, specifically those who have kids in the school system.
As far as what the new norm will be, what that is, I truly don't know, but I have a feeling that shopping will come back very strong.
For retail business owners, Hakimoglu says it's going to take the community and shops working hand in hand with each other while taking precautions, starting from scratch or reopening slowly but surely. In Eugene, I'm Angelina Dixon reporting.
All right, thanks for that report, Angelina. The Chamber of Commerce says they're hoping for legislators to include liability protection for businesses throughout Oregon in their next special session. Well, growing concern tonight that the college football season will be either canceled or postponed. NBC 16 sports director Brandon Cameraman joins us live from his home to sort out the rumors, speculation, and facts. Brandon.
The fate of the college football season hangs in the balance this week, Jacqueline. By tomorrow evening, we may know that the Pac-12 fall football season is either canceled or postponed. But before we get to that, here's what we do know. 2 FBS conferences have already postponed their fall football seasons. That's the MAC and the Mountain West. There is speculation that the Big Ten, by the end of tonight, could announce the cancellation or postponement of their fall football season. As for the Pac-12, specifically Oregon and Oregon State, well, they're practicing today. They were having mandatory workouts. Fall training camp is set to begin 1 week from today. Their calendar is still on the books. Remember, it was just a couple weeks ago that the Pac-12 announced its revised calendar. That would be an in-conference 10-game schedule. But right now, we know that they're supposed to meet tomorrow.
All right, Brandon, thank you for that report tonight. Well, we're going to take a live look at our downtown Eugene if we can here. Chief Meteorologist Josh Cozart has our first look at weather now.
It was another toasty day across western Oregon. We managed to climb back up into the mid-90s through the I-5 corridor, even out along the coast, right around average into the 60s. But look at Gold Beach, nearly 80 degrees for our high today. Radar and satellite over the past several hours showing calm, quiet, and clear conditions. A few clouds racing their way down to the south just off the coast. But due to the lack of rainfall, we've bounced ourselves back up to high fire potentials for Coos and Douglas County after residing in the moderate range over much of our weekend. Tonight, we fall back into the low 50s, more sunshine yet again tomorrow, but we go from today's 80s and 90s to the mid 80s tomorrow, and then even cooler temperatures still right around the corner. We'll discuss that in my full forecast.
All right, Josh, thank you. Southwestern Community College in Coos Bay starts fall term in about a month, and students will be studying in 4 different scenarios. Depending on the class, a student will have instruction in person, hybrid, online, and virtual, or entirely online. In-person classes will be set up for social distancing. Cleaning will happen between every class, and masks will be required when indoors. When walking around campus, masks will not always be required.
We're not a closed campus, meaning we don't have all inside buildings and hallways. So throughout campus and the outside areas, if they're walking in a group, and they can't keep social distancing, they're required to have their face covering on.
He estimates fewer than 20% of students will have in-person classes. Those classes are mainly career and technical education classes like culinary, nursing, and fire science. Campus life activities will be brought back with student requests and a thorough vetting process done by the school.
once they get back here, we can start engaging them about how and what they would like to do, and we'll go through each one of those activities, events, or those clubs that they may want to do something. Most of it we're anticipating would be virtual, maybe some type of hybrid.
Student housing will be available, but some apartments will have fewer students because of social distancing requirements. All students moving are required to have a health screening before being approved. The Performing Arts Center, student internships, and large events will remain closed during the fall term. At tonight's Springfield School Board meeting, Springfield Public Schools will be requesting the purchase of air purifiers for each of its 22 schools. The proposal would use money from the Federal CARES Act to offset the approximately $250,000 cost. The 500 air purifiers would be installed in the heating and air conditioning systems of the schools. It's a step in improving the circulation of clean air through buildings.
Our schools are going to be one of the healthiest environments that they could be in conjunction with the air purifiers that we're putting in our HVAC systems. We're also putting in a higher MERV rating air filtration system, and it has an antimicrobial coating on it that basically any microorganisms attached to it and kills it in place.
A return to school plan will also be in front of the board for their approval. The meeting will begin at 7 this evening and can be viewed online. Registration has started for students in the Coos Bay School District. Families with kindergarten to 7th grade students can pick up enrollment packets tomorrow. The packets include bus forms, health updates, and after-school plans. Parents can get those papers curbside from 8 to 11 a.m. or from noon until 3 at the school district office. The enrollment packets are due back at your child's school during curbside enrollment August 26th or 27th. Coming up on your only local news at 5:30, Willamette National Forest sets new restrictions as dry conditions continue. What is now prohibited outside of designated campgrounds.